Guys, welcome back for day 2 of week 7. Week 7, guys. Can you believe that? That's crazy. All right, so remember we are talking about the Trail of Tears and the American Indian Removal Act. We talked yesterday about how Chief McIntosh gave up millions of acres of land to the United States and that he was sentenced to death because of that. So the fights over the native land. So the treaty with the Creeks allowed each Creek family, or the rights, I'm sorry, not the fights, the rights over native land. The treaty with the Creeks allowed each Creek family the right to stay in Alabama if they chose to. Each family would be given 320 acres of land. That's a lot of land. That's a lot. Sounds pretty good, right? 320 acres. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'll take that. No. Not always how things happen. Not always that easy, right? Easier said than done. The settlers were told that the land was up for grabs. So they did not care what the treaty said. They came in, claimed the land, and they started to build cabins. This made the Creeks mad. Wouldn't it make you mad? Wouldn't it make you mad to be told in a treaty? And we talked about treaties. We talked about how the pen is mightier than the sword, how treaties are binding things. They're legal, they're binding, you have to follow them. Well, in the treaty, it says you're going to get all this land, and then the colonists, the settlers who came over from a country that is a world away, came over to a country that you were already living in and decided to just take your land because they felt like it? No, it would make you mad too. So understandably, they were very upset. Fighting broke out, and of course it got out of hand. As we heard, we learned last week that when the Native Americans and the settlers, anytime there was any kind of issue, conflict with them, it never ended up well. It never ended well. A lot of people died on both sides, so of course it got out of hand. Federal troops had to come in and decide who got the land. All right, let's take a poll real quick. Thumbs up if you think the Native Americans are going to get the land. Thumbs down if you think the colonists, the settlers, are going to get it. What you think? Let's find out. So sometimes the Indians were driven west and sometimes the settlers were kicked off Creek land. So it was kind of a toss-up. Sometimes they were like, nah, you guys got to skedaddle on out of here and move on west. We're going to give this land to the settlers. And sometimes they were like, well, they can stay. Settlers, you've got to go. Confusing, right? Confusing. What was the point of all of this if they were going to come in and decide who got the land, if they were going to make it different for different situations, right? What made the decision for the Creeks to have to leave, and what made the decision for the settlers to have to leave? So President Jackson decides to sign the American Indian Removal Act. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed a new law called the Indian Removal Act. This law was for the entire country, not just the Native Americans in Alabama. It stated that the federal government would do its best to clear out all American Indians in the eastern United States and move them west of the Mississippi River. This was to make room for more white settlers to come over from England, Europe, different countries in Europe, Spain, France, that they wanted to make more room for them, even though it was not their land to begin with. One by one, chiefs came in to sign the treaties, like the Choctaws Treaty of Rabbit Creek. So not only were they giving up land, but they were willingly coming in and signing these treaties because they did not want to fight. After signing, the tribes were escorted west of the Mississippi River on foot, boys and girls, on foot. Does that sound very fair? No. They were originally told, look, you get all this land, we'll come in and decide who gets it. Some people were getting it, some people weren't, and now they're all being forced to move, to leave the only place they have ever called home. In the early 1830s, about 14,000 Choctaw went west to what is now Oklahoma. So you got to think, Alabama and Oklahoma, on foot. So easily it can be broken up into a 2-day car ride, and they're going to walk it on foot. 1/4 of them died during the journey. 1/4 of them died during the journey. So 1/4 of, I'm going to figure it out real quick. 1/4 of 14,000 is 3,500. 3,500 of them died during that journey. All right, and that is it for day 2. Come back tomorrow for some more. It's not the most pleasant part of history, but it is a part of history. And it is still pretty interesting to learn about what they went through. So I will see you tomorrow for more.